FEMA, ICE, manufacturing famine, and Argentina. So we're going to talk about a few things today. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe and let's get started. First of all, FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency that is supposed to help out when there are disasters in the country, whatever the state may be, whether Democratic or Republican. But what Donald Trump's regime has done is provide disaster aid for red states while not doing so for Democratic states. CBS reports the Federal Emergency Management Agency officially denied Maryland's appeal for aid following historic flooding in the western part of the state in May. Miles Taylor, somebody who Donald Trump has targeted, said that the White House granted emergency FEMA assistance to red states hit by storms, but denied support to blue states. Donald is now delivering essential life-saving services based on politics. This has got to be among his most reckless, un-American acts yet. Governor Wes Moore's press release was issued, and it says, FEMA has a responsibility to weigh the merits of each emergency request objectively. And in this case, FEMA objectively assessed that the amount of damage was 3 times the required $11 plus million for FEMA help to kick in. Instead, President Trump and his administration have politicized disaster relief, and our communities are the ones who will pay the price. While we disagree with both this process and outcome, our resolve is unbroken. We will continue to support Marylanders recovering from these storms, even if Washington doesn't. Remember, it doesn't have to be this way. FEMA is not just for red states. FEMA is for every state. I remember FEMA, when I was going down to, we drove down from Michigan to Louisiana to New Orleans almost 2 years after the hurricane hit, Katrina hit, and there was still a lot of legal work to do there. There was a backlog of bankruptcies. And on our way in, we saw FEMA trailers just abandoned on the side of the highway because they didn't have any place for it, because FEMA had gotten these emergency trailers to take care of the people who were victims of Katrina, who were survivors of Katrina, and whose homes had been destroyed. And now we're seeing that federal help just disappear from a blue state. But here's the twist. Greg Sargent reports in the New Republic that Trump screws his voters again. He just denied disaster aid to Maryland while giving it to the red states. But I took a look. Turns out the ailing Maryland counties are in Appalachia and backed him by 40 and 54 points. So Donald Trump is betraying his own people who voted for him, just because they live in a state that is governed by Democrats. You see how dangerous that is, and what a betrayal that is to his voters, and even to people who are not his voters. Donald Trump is not the president of the Republican states of America. Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America that has 50 states, some of which are Democratic-led and some of which are Republican-led. And it is the president's job and the job of Kristi Noem, who is now the Secretary of Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. So this is happening under her supervision, under her, maybe her direction. And that is un-American, that is cruel, and that is a betrayal of the oath of office that Donald Trump took to protect and defend the American people. The second thing I want to talk to you about also falls under Kristi Noem's banner of the Department of Homeland Security. There's news that internal struggles are happening inside the Department of Homeland Security's ICE leadership, Immigration and Customs Enforcement leadership. NBC reports the White House has approved a list of ICE leaders to be replaced by Border Patrol officials in coming days amid disappointment with arrest numbers. Wow. CBS reports the Trump administration has increasingly turned to CBP and Border Patrol officials like Commander Gregory Bovino to expand its government-wide crackdown on illegal immigration, deploying them to apprehend unauthorized immigrants far away from the U.S.-Mexico border in Democratic-led cities like Chicago and Los Angeles. Bill Mulligan of Fox News reported this, and I'm going to read his post. Generally speaking, ICE typically conducts very targeted operations, largely going after criminal illegal aliens or those with deportation orders, but almost always knowing who they are targeting for arrest, often conducting surveillance to learn their schedules before and waiting hours before arresting them if needed. Now, I would just like to go back here and talk about the reasonable suspicion standard. And here is the reasonable suspicion standard that, generally speaking, they are targeted operations on criminal illegal aliens who had, or with people with deportation orders, and they knew who they are targeting, and they are there to arrest, and there's planning involved based on the articulable facts, particular and articulable facts, which does not exist for the ICE agents who are going all around the country in these Democratic-led areas and just running after people who speak Spanish or running after brown people and essentially racial profiling, like the concurrence by Justice Kavanaugh said that race could be one of the factors of reasonable suspicion. I mean, and that's essentially what he said. You can read his opinion. I'll put it in the description box. Border Patrol under Trump 2.0, going back to Mr. Mulligan's post, under 2.0, while sometimes doing their own targeted operations, has been extremely aggressive and has been at the forefront of some of the most controversial immigration enforcement operations we've seen so far, carrying out roving patrols in Los Angeles, Chicago, etc., often at Home Depot, car washes, flea markets, etc., leading to a handful of federal judges around the country issuing injunctions against them. ICE often gets blamed for what Border Patrol does, as the media and activists often cannot tell the difference between federal agents, and everyone is called ICE. I'm told there are growing concerns about the political and PR fallout associated with some of the roving patrols Border Patrol is conducting as lawsuits continue to stack up and midterms approach next year. And these are now, he talks about the people who are doing this radical change of ICE. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem Corey Lewandowski, Kristi Noem's boyfriend, I think, and Border Patrol Commander Bavino preferred to use aggressive tactics to arrest anyone in the U.S. illegally, including but not limited to criminals, to ramp up deportation numbers and achieve Trump's promises of mass deportation. DHS official says, "I started with the worst of the worst, knowing every target they are hitting. But since Border Patrol started in LA in June, we have," meaning DHS, "lost our focus, going too hard, too fast, with limited prioritization." Okay, good. "It's getting numbers, but at what cost? What did everyone think mass deportations meant? Only the worst? Tom Homan has said it himself. Anyone in the U.S. illegally is on the table." And then we have Tricia Laughlin, who is the, I think the Deputy Press Secretary for Homeland Security or something, says, "This is one team, one fight. President Trump has a brilliant, tenacious team led by Secretary Noem to deliver on the American people's mandate to remove criminal illegal aliens from this country." Well, previous administrations were doing just that. They just weren't targeting and racially profiling. So we are left now with an ICE that is going to be far more aggressive than it has been so far, and we already see how aggressive they've been. And we are seeing Kristi Noem's DHS just kick it up notches instead of dialing it down, all the while blaming left extremists of protesting peacefully and protesting when there are these roving patrols going around and picking up people based on how they look or where they work. And that is happening in America right now. And people are being detained right now because of the fact that the Supreme Court won't do anything substantively to stop it, while inferring that racial profiling is okay. Kavanaugh stops everybody. That gives Donald Trump sort of a slippity slide motion of what can be done in jurisdiction where he hasn't gone in yet. Because in order for the ruling to apply, a district court's ruling only applies to those districts and not nationwide. That also comes from the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court, I think, what was the case? I don't recall the case exactly right now, but it happened recently, where a judge's orders cannot go national. A district federal judge's order is not meant to be a national injunction. It is only for that district. So here we are because of, thank you, Supreme Court, for, loosening the law for this regime. The third topic, Trump says this about Javier Milei of Argentina. He was a great victor, and he had a lot of help from us. See, it's out in the open now. The fact that other countries interfere in other countries' elections, democratic elections, that is a no-no, which is election interference, and therefore it is not a free and fair election. They're doing it in the open now. $20 billion to Milei's government, and then $20 billion more in private investment coming. That's guaranteed by the United States. So $40 billion was on Milei's side when you're talking about an alleged reformist who is going for austerity and whose government is cracking and falling, but he was just lifted up by Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is open about it. So is Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent of Argentina, Treasury Secretary, Stabilizing Argentina is America first. Besant argued, we do not want another failed or China-led state in Latin America. So they're just talking openly about this, and it comes upon Chuck Grassley at this point to be the voice of reason and posting, once again though, the moves to help Argentina appear to hurt U.S. farmers. Iowa Republican Chuck Grassley took to social media to ask, why would USA help bail out Argentina while they take American soybeans producers' biggest market? Well, Chuck, great question. You should probably ask Donald Trump what he is thinking. Iowa's GDP went down by 6% in the last year. And Iowa, which voted for Obama, I think both times, voted for Trump twice. And I don't know what else to say, but look where you are. Do you realize you're being betrayed? If it happens to you the first time, what did Bush say? Or what's the saying? If it happens to you the first time, blame on them. If it happens to you the second time, blame on you. Or something of that sort. I think I bungled it more than W did. Anyway, John Byrd Jr., the National Black Farmers Association representative, says a lot of that bailout went to assist Argentina's farmers. They turned around and sold their soybeans to China and pretty much stole our market there. His tariffs, he said, Donald Trump's tariffs, were helping the beef industry. And it's not. It's killing us. I'm glad to see other farmers start to speak out and let the president know we are at a real disadvantage when you bail out a foreign country, but you won't help your farmers right here at home. So farmers are feeling the pinch and they are realizing that they are being betrayed. But Donald Trump is happy-go-lucky dancing in Malaysia, going to Japan and completely bungling the protocol of walking down the ceremonial observance of the guard and just, meandering his way through Japan and Asia while the country is in shutdown and in 3 days or so, SNAP assistance ends. It is insane that we are at a time, because of the shutdown, that 1.4 million federal workers went without pay. So they got a check with $0, and now they are going to be, anyone who goes for SNAP no longer has it. It's gone after November 1st. Christopher Webb, a commentator on Blue Sky, says 1.4 million civilian federal employees didn't get a paycheck. And the part no one's talking about, even if the government reopens tomorrow, we'll be right back to the edge by November 21st, the next shutdown deadline. Chaos on repeat. Sarah Ferris of CNN reports Democrats will soon seek emergency help from courts to keep SNAP funds flowing after November 1st. White House has said that it doesn't have the power to move money around. Democrats say it isn't true. A group of 8 Democratic attorney generals plan to file suit as soon as tomorrow, seeking intervention as soon as possible per 3 sources. So what happened was there is a multi-billion-dollar slush fund that the government has that is meant as a contingency for emergencies. And the White House has decided, the same White House that is getting $130 million from private donors like Timothy Mellon, who really wants his name covered up in the Epstein files and therefore has bribed Donald Trump with $130 million by giving it to the Pentagon to look good, despite the fact that giving it to the Pentagon really does nothing to the Pentagon. $130 million is like spare change for them. So anyway, going back to SNAP. SNAP benefits will end because the government that keeps mingling money and using this money to pay the military and that money to pay the military and this money here and doing rescissions there, and Russell Vought is making a mess of congressional appropriation. They are saying that they can't allocate a contingency fund that is there in case of emergencies, because now there is that very emergency that this contingency was designed to safeguard against. The amount of money that is in this contingency would be more than enough to pay for SNAP benefits to the people who need it. It's assistance, not even a benefit, it's an assistance. It's basic food. And coming at the beginning of the holiday season, it is inhumane, unconscionable evil to even consider this, that we're going to now have manufactured a famine for 40 plus million Americans during the holidays because of the shutdown, and because the shutdown happened because Republicans don't want Americans to have affordable health care. They want the Affordable Care Act tax credits to expire, and Democrats will not accept that, and they shouldn't accept that. Medical insurance is going up 3 times for people, 300%, as Donald Trump likes to say. God knows if it goes up 600%, it very well could. But then SNAP benefits going away means there's going to be food deserts all over the country in impoverished areas and inner cities and rural areas. To that effect, I have provided you links below the references. You'll see there's a list called resources. And if you're in the mid-Michigan or eastern and northern Illinois area, then I have provided you with links, and New York area, because those are the places that I have lived and I'm familiar with these organizations. If you don't know if there are food pantries in your neighborhood and you need to find one for yourself, then please Google search food pantry near me or food bank near me. Or if you want food instead of resources to prepare food at home, then you say food kitchens near me. And generally in every town, city, township, locality, there is at least one of these resources. And I have provided the links below, and if there are others in your neighborhood, in your areas, then please put those links in the description box, in the commentary, so others may be able to make use of them if those are close to where they are. With that said, please stay safe, please stay vigilant, and take care of each other.